I was wondering when you'd show up. My name is Thomas Bresham, creator of a game called PINSTRIPE. I'm also working on a game called Neversong. Click the links in the description. You can check out those games. All right, today's gonna be a fun day. I like this video. I like this video because it's about an email that I received. I really like answering emails, so send me some emails. Okay, so this email is all about confidence. And this is kind of like beating a dead horse because if there's anything that game developers lack, it's confidence. That's kind of the mantra of most game devs. But we're gonna try and address this email because I want to try and help Kamal out. Kamal sent me an email and said, no matter how well my game ideas sound, I as of now can't find myself confident enough to make the leap of faith and release the game. I know it took you some time to do that, but you had a rather tight focus on your game idea. Did I? That's a good question. I don't know if I did, and we'll talk about that. I am honestly not that confident in mine, so I'd like to, at least initially, keep it smaller, release a casual mobile game every couple of months, and see where it goes from there. What kind of process do you think can be adopted by casual game developers? So we'll talk about that process. What's the best approach for a casual game developer in releasing games? Before we get started, guys, I want to thank our sponsor, Nord Locker. I can't tell you guys how many files I share on a daily basis. Whether it's with my editor or my publishers or accountants or business team, there's a ton of stuff that I want to be safely encrypted and done correctly, and it can honestly be a bit scary. If you're any kind of creative, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why I love Nord Locker. Nord Locker is actually from the makers of NordVPN, surprise, surprise. And I kid you not, encrypting and sharing your files is as simple as dragging something from your desktop into a folder. It works on Windows or Mac, and you can send and share to anyone with a password, and it's for your eyes and whoever you share it with. The best part is, guys, this is completely free. You can use all functionalities of the software as long as your encryption is limited to 2 gigabytes. Now, if you want more than 2 gigabytes, it's just $1.49 a month. Now, if you decide to pay for a full year, that's a 32% discount. That's just $1 a month. That is a good deal. I did not have a fully fleshed concept for my first game, PINSTRIPE, which was eventually released on console and Steam. You know what's funny about YouTubers, which I'm certainly one of the smaller YouTubers, but people look at YouTubers and they think they got, all their stuff together. Everything's in line, especially when you have a really nice camera, or at least, I think my camera's kind of nice. It's a nice little Sony, and everything looks pretty. We've got a nice bokeh, is that the word bokeh? Bokeh effect, really beautiful. I got my lights set up. Makes me look kind of pretty as I can look. But if I took this camera that I'm talking to, if I took it and I walked around my office, you guys would be like, Thomas, there's a lamp just sitting on the floor. And what's all that trash? And why is there a bunch of 2x4s leaning against the wall? And why don't you have any blinds? There's just a piece of paper hanging on your window. That's kind of the way my games are as well. It looks pretty once I release the game, right? And everyone thinks, wow, Thomas must have really known what he was doing. And he had a GDD. All prepared and ready to go. By the way, a GDD is a game design document. That's BS. When I make games, it's kind of a mess. I don't have everything fleshed out, and specifically with PINSTRIPE, that game is about a minister who goes to hell. It did pretty good on launch, still doing pretty good, but it took me 3 years to figure out what that game even was. And by the way, I'm not your role model. That's terrible. It should not take you 3 years to figure out what your game even is. But it did. I didn't even know it was about a minister. I just knew I wanted it to be some abstract thing about hell or the afterlife. So it took a long time before I even wrote down the plot. Even now, I don't even know what that game even is. The concept, it doesn't fully register in my mind. That's especially true for game developers who are super attached to their work. It's really hard to have an understanding of the concept of your game because you're so attached to it. And you remember the game from the beginning when you started it, and then you have an idea of what the game is when you finish it. So it's just this blurry timeline of not really knowing what the concept is. So my whole point is that it's really hard to get a grasp on what the concept of your game even is as a game developer. And this really reflects on your confidence. Your confidence is always going to be shaky with your project. Now, some of you might have a godlike sense of confidence, and congratulations. But for me, my confidence is shaky all the time. And I've learned to just let that be. That's the way it's gonna be. And I'm not gonna worry too much about feeling a lack of confidence, right? What's that book called? Art of Not Giving a F. Basically, the concept of the book is just because you feel something doesn't mean you need to feel bad about it, right? So if you don't have confidence in your work, don't feel like you're stupid for not having confidence. That's just the way it goes. So I would just recommend to you right now, if your lack of confidence is stopping you from actually even starting your project or finishing your project, then you're not going to be a game developer, because all game developers who release projects, they don't really have confidence in that project. And I can only really speak for me, I guess, but that's especially true for me. I'm always lacking confidence. But just because I'm afraid, just because I'm insecure, doesn't mean I'm not going to take the next step to get something done. The most successful entrepreneurs are not the ones who are fearless. They're the ones who know how to deal with fear. Write that down. That's a quote from Thomas Brush. Whoever COMA is, I think this individual has a really good point. They say they're basically going to create small games and release those every other month or something like that. That's a great idea, Kamal. Seriously. And I think we could all take advice from Kamal. Why is that a good thing to do, to release small games at the beginning of being a developer? Well, the reason why is because you want to build up a thick skin. You want to be able to release games, get feedback, sometimes negative feedback. In fact, if it's your first game, people are going to probably take a dump all over your game all day long, get bad reviews. But the point is for you to learn to not care, or at least you're going to care. You're always going to care. But I guess not let it stop you in your pursuit of making great games. So, for those of you who have never released a game before, release a game. Get it done. Even if it's a piece of flaming crap, release your game. Release it on itch.io or mobile or something like that. This is going to give you a thick skin and help you move forward with making your game. When I released PINSTRIPE, which was not my first game, but it was my first commercial release, I was so nervous. I was very miserable launching that game on Steam. I was so nervous that I needed a bottle of whiskey to get through the night. And that's terrible, right? You shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to numb the pain of entrepreneurship. You should learn to just live with it. Live in the beauty of the journey, right? Even if the journey is scary and insecure, just learn to enjoy it. Well, that game was really difficult for me to launch because I spent 5 years working on it. I was really nervous about the reception. Just learn to live in it. You don't need to drink whiskey like I did on PINSTRIPE's launch. And the truth is now I have a thicker skin. I'm not as nervous to launch things. I've launched PINSTRIPE on other platforms. It didn't bother me. I got bad reviews sometimes. Didn't bother me. And I actually got a really bad review from was it GameSpot? Is it GameStop or GameSpot? They gave me a 5 out of 10 for PINSTRIPE. That was the worst day. One of the worst days. 5 years of making a game, and then they drop a 5 out of 10. And, at that point, I just kind of stopped caring about reviews. I just didn't worry about it. And I recommend you guys learn to do the same. Stop worrying so much about what people think. Stop worrying about how you think about yourself. Just move forward. Kind of treat yourself like a robot, right? Just move forward. What's the mission? What's the protocol? Get it done. And you'll thank yourself in the long run, right? You'll look back 6 years and go, I got really bad reviews, but who cares, right? It was part of learning. It was part of the process. All right, Kamal, thanks for that email. Wow, that was amazing. Anyways, guys, click the link in the description to get a free copy of PINSTRIPE by supporting on Patreon. Also, oh man, I forgot to say, follow me on Insta. Thanks. Subscribe, notification bell, comments. That's about everything. Thanks for watching. Bye.